Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. Who am I? Well, I, of course, am your host. My name is John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, get together with us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And it is Friday. Now, some of you may have noticed, did not have a John Campea Show yesterday. Kind of last minute, my wife Ann and I decided we wanted to go to Disneyland to see if we can get on that Rise of Resistance ride, because it's an impossible ride to get on. It's impossible. So we figured the only possible way we're going to get on that ride is if we go during the week. And we went there at like 7:30 in the morning. We arrived there. Man, 7 o'clock maybe we got there, arrived, and we were able to get on the ride. And I am happy to tell you guys, it lives up to the hype. It is one of the, not one of the. It is the most immersive theme park attractions into a movie thing I have ever been on in my life. I'm not going to give away anything. I'm not going to spoil anything. But if you guys get a chance to go and actually get on the Rise of Resistance, absolutely take it. It was a wonderful time. But we're back here today on this Friday, and I'm joined by a couple folks here in studio. First of all, we're of course joined by the wonderful one and only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm fantastic. I have yet to go on to the Rise of the Resistance, but every time I hear about it, my excitement level just bubbles over. So one day, John.
It's just as good as they say. And of course, also joining us over here, who was at the LA Kings Toronto Maple Leafs game with me last night, is Erin Cummings with, of course, our little friend Joey Bishop.
Hello. Hi, John. Yes, we did go to the Kings and the Maple Leafs game last night. Didn't end how we wanted it to for the Canadians, but It was a very exciting game in overtime anyway. Yeah, Tom and I were actually thinking about going to Disneyland on Saturday around noon and just kind of seeing if we can get on the ride.
You won't. No, you won't. You won't.
Kidding.
No, you have to be literally,
tell us about your, how you actually got on the ride.
So here's the way it works, okay? You gotta, first of all, the park opens at 8, so you can get in at 8. And once you're in at 8, the park itself isn't open, but you can be on Main Street and just kind of hanging out. Now, you have to be checked in at Disneyland, and you have to be there on Main Street. Then at 9 a.m., the online queue starts for the Rise of Resistance. And so you've got to have your Disneyland app open. And the moment it hits 9 a.m., that thing says, join a boarding group. And everybody, there's thousands of people on the street smashing join a boarding group. And you got to hope that you get an early enough number. Now, we were really lucky. We got boarding group 34. So we actually got on the ride at like 11:30 a.m.
Wow.
So we only had like a 2.5 hour wait. Now, my other friends went during, now I'm sure there are other people who got like boarding group 100 and something. Like my friends went last week, were there at 7 o'clock in the morning, went in at 8 o'clock, smash, got their boarding group. They were there at 7:30 in the morning. They get on the ride at almost 10 o'clock at night. So yeah, if you're not there when the park opens, there's no chance.
It's the 2020 version of dialing for concert tickets.
No, actually, that's funny. That's the same thing Ann said yesterday. Mm-hmm. That's the exact same thing Ann said yesterday. So yeah, guys, if you're going to go and you're going to try to get on this ride, you got to make sure to be there right when the park opens for at least the next few months, I'm thinking. Anyway, guys, listen, we got a whole bunch of fun stuff to talk about here today, including that new Tom Hanks trailer, Greyhound, was great. The first reviews and reactions for A Quiet Place 2 are out. The Last of Us. They've been talking about doing a movie for a long time. It's not getting a movie. It's getting an HBO live action series. The early tracking numbers, what is Mulan going to make on its opening weekend? We get those numbers as well. But before we talk about that, let's go off the top with this. And the first thing I want to mention is one of the things that we as movie fans do, a lot, as a matter of fact, is when a big movie is coming out, we will scrape and search for any little picture. And you know what? YouTube channels know this. So they manipulate you by putting up a picture that's just nothing picture. And they put a red circle around something, even if nothing's really there. And a little red circle with an arrow pointing to it. And then you click on the video saying, woo, there must be something there. But there's never anything there. But anyway, that's what we do. And we get all hyped up. And the moment anything comes out, we start to analyze and try to come up with stuff. Well, anyway, of course, we know that happened a lot with Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame a lot because it was a hugely anticipated movie. One of the things that came out about the movie was there started going around word that there was a deleted scene from the movie that Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, was actually in that Vormir scene with Black Widow and Hawkeye. and she was a part of the battle scene, and that they deleted it later on and changed the scene and rewrote that. Well, apparently now we know that was not the case. It was actually not the case. That's not what happened. Brie Larson went on to explain. She put up actually a picture. Take a look at this shot. This is the one that went around, got everybody talking. That's clearly Vormir. But what happened was she explained in the Instagram post, this is just a photo of my first camera test and first costume. We were still figuring out what her signature moves would be, and I was still learning how to move in that leather wetsuit. Good times. Now, a lot of people forget that Endgame actually filmed before Captain Marvel did. Even though Captain Marvel came out before Endgame, a lot of people forget that. So this was really, Rob, her first time in the suit and getting things worked out. But it reminds us again that, it goes back to Batman versus Superman. Remember when the picture came out of, who's the guy from *Halt and Catch Fire*? I can't remember the name of the actor. It's on the tip of my tongue. The guy who's
Levi.
No, not him. But he was the one who was in the wheelchair in Batman versus Superman.
Oh, yeah,
because the battle of Metropolis crushed his legs. Anyway, an early picture came out of him from set where he had green leggings on, and everybody instantly went, this confirms he's playing Flash. That means, because his legs will have to move real quick, like this, right? So that means he's Flash. Of course, he wasn't Flash and all that kind of stuff. But it teaches us again that I and you and a lot of us film fans, we jump to a lot of conclusions very quickly.
No.
Anyway, Rob, when you saw this picture initially, did you think, oh yeah, because clearly it did look like, to everybody's defense who thought there was a scene, it did look like that. Are you surprised to hear it was just, actually this was just her on set giving her a chance to get some camera tests?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I never make those assumptions about anything because, especially when a movie like Endgame or Infinity War, there's a huge ensemble of people, and you never know what they're shooting. They might be shooting one thing in the afternoon and another thing in the morning, and she might be on, if you put the camera 180 degrees, you might be looking at an entirely different set.
Right.
So there's never any reason to suspect anything when you see a behind the scenes photo like that. You just never know. So I don't make those assumptions. I mean, I love, even now people are all the commentary about the Batmobile and the Batsuit. And I'm like, man, give it a rest. Wait till you see the movie. I mean, you might be looking at a flashback scene that lasts 10 minutes total. If that. I mean, who knows what the Batmobile is going to look like when it's in action?
But
guys, I mean, we do got to admit though, we get excited about these movies and we see these images and we start going there. So I mean, you got to forgive us a little bit for
it's true,
caught up
but
in the enthusiasm of it, right?
But after decades, you'd think we'd know better.
Well,
Michael Keaton as Batman sucked. Heath Ledger's the Joker, gonna be terrible. Oh my God! I mean, when are we gonna learn?
Aaron, you've been in movies and TV shows. I'm sure you guys usually have to probably take a lot of publicity photos. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, whatever. That stuff can really be deceiving if they get out to the audience, can they not?
Well, absolutely. And one of the reasons why you do test shoots is to find out whether or not it actually works on camera. I did a screen test for, not a screen test, but a visual camera test for a movie that I did called Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins many, many years ago. And I was in full body makeup, prosthetics, wig, costume, everything. And it looked good in person, and then once we saw it on the camera, the director and the producers decided to make some changes to the prosthetics, some changes to look, and it really changed the look of the character. But you don't know that until you get in front of it and they see it behind the monitor. But again, I was in hair and makeup. They were shooting a completely different scene. I just walked in front of the camera in the set that they happened to be shooting in between takes. So if anybody cared about it at that time, which of course nobody did, if anybody cared, like, oh, what is Aaron Cummings doing in this movie? They would have seen my character in that set and been like, oh, I wonder if that's, something to do with this character, but it had nothing to do with it at all. And similarly, when we've done other promotional shots, a lot of times, like Rob was saying, those things happen right next to where they're filming something that doesn't have anything to do with those test shots or moving forward. It also reminds me of some of the test shots that get leaked out before they make these changes, like with the Wonder Woman television show, and how... What's wrong?
You're looking at the monitor instead of the camera.
Sorry.
I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, thank you. I always did.
That's why I was pointing at the lens.
Oh, I've always done that. Okay, sorry. I've always done that. This is the first time... So Wonder Woman television show. Do you guys remember the big backlash of the costume?
Yeah, with
yeah.
Adriana Pilecki, right?
Yes, exactly. And they could have easily figured out when they saw it on camera, oh yeah, this looks like something that you would buy in a costume shop on Hollywood Boulevard. Let's change it. But the photos got leaked and people immediately were poo-pooing it before they even saw anything.
Well, I think another point that you bring out is like when you're doing a camera test on, say, superhero costumes, they like to see how the light hits because the fabrics, how, and you have different sets that are already set up. So rather than having to like go different places, they can, you have somebody walk onto a set and immediately you can see how the light is hitting. Even if it's a green screen set, you see how it's bouncing off. There was rock there because it's Vormir. It looks different if, say, you're out in the street, or it's a utilitarian thing. So whenever you see behind the scenes photos on a superhero film, never believe them, especially if it's early in the early days.
And I love how Brie Larson pointed out the fact that she was learning how to move in a wetsuit. Like, if you think about it, anyone who's ever worn a wetsuit, those things are really, they're not very ergonomically, they don't feel comfortable, and it's hard to do anything in them, much less all the action scenes that she's having to do. So I really love that she pointed that out as well.
All right, guys, question is, what do you think about finding this out? Were you one of the people, which is, I believe, completely understandable if you thought, oh yeah, clearly this means that there was a deleted scene there. Were you like me and felt that way? Did you never think that in the first place? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with the main topics by going anytime over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. Hit submit. It's totally free. And then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question as a featured item here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Stephanie Almeida, who writes, "Hey, John, I read that the new Mulan movie was tracking to make $85 million opening weekend, which would be the biggest opening weekend of the year so far. If it does hit that mark, do you consider that good, bad? What do you think?" All right, thanks a lot for sending in that question, Stephanie. And there's a couple things you need to keep in mind about the Mulan film. Number 1, the production budget is $200 million. So they're taking this movie real damn seriously. So it's a $200 million movie. So you got to figure if they put about $100 million into the marketing of it, you're figuring now it's probably got to make $450, $475, somewhere in that neighborhood just to break even. Is an $85 million, just domestically, we're not talking worldwide, is an $85 million opening weekend good enough to hit that mark? Well, there's a couple of different little movies to look at. For example, the other film that right now is the biggest opening weekend of the year so far was Bad Boys, which I believe is somewhere around 65 million or something along those lines in its opening weekend. This would far exceed that. Bad Boys itself just crossed $400 million. And I guarantee you, Bad Boys will not have as much international appeal as, say, Mulan does, right? And I'm not even just talking China. I think this is something that'll have more international appeal than Bad Boys does. The other thing is this to keep in mind. The other movie besides Bad Boys that we should keep in mind is the movie Aladdin. Aladdin, of course, crossed the $1 billion mark worldwide, and it opened to 91. And right now, a lot of the box office experts are saying that this movie could easily exceed that from that $85 million mark to easily climb over 91, and Aladdin went on to make $1 billion. Now, while I think Mulan has a bigger international appeal than Bad Boys, I don't know I can say the same for Aladdin. I don't think it has a bigger international appeal for Aladdin, but I think then it making $700 million becomes not a problem because this is a movie. Movies don't need to make $1 billion. So I would say right now, from my point of view, if this movie were indeed to make, say, 85 million, 90 million opening weekend, I think you consider that a big win. I think you consider that a win and then move on. Then it all becomes, is the movie any good or not, and will it actually have any legs? Rob, you had a chance to take a look at this. You've seen what it's projecting for. If it does indeed hit 85, and do you think it'll hit 85, is that something that Disney would be happy with or be concerned with? How would you see it?
Well, if those are the projections and it hits 85 million, I think it's a win for Disney. It's probably going to do quite well. I mean, it's unfortunate that movie theaters in China are closed, but I think that the movie probably is going to do very, very well. People like Mulan. The film looks epic. John, I gotta say, I'm looking forward to this movie, and I think it's going to do. I don't know if it has the appeal of an Aladdin, because
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does. It certainly doesn't have the movie star appeal, and Aladdin is the kind of movie that goes down easy. This, I think, has a little bit more substance to it. It might not have the fun factor that an Aladdin will have, but to me, it looks really epic. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to do quite well.
Aaron, you hear about this. You're in the Disney executive offices. First of all, do you think it'll hit that 85? And if it does, right around that neighborhood, is that something good? Is that something bad? How do you see it?
Yeah, I see that as being a very good number, especially with, like Rob was saying, as far as the movie theaters, not only in China, but also in America. The trailer was so captivating and so beautifully done that I think it's going to attract people who really want to see movies, Disney films with more substance that aren't just, quote, marketed for kids. A lot of times I find myself falling into that trap of going, oh, it's a cartoon, it's just for kids, which I know is completely wrong and not the way that I should be looking at it, because I often find myself really enjoying these films. But Mulan has something so much stronger to offer. Initially, The Independent had reported that their release date in China was being pushed to March 27th, and now they're saying that it could even be taken off the slate completely, which obviously is going to affect their worldwide box office. They're going to take a pretty big hit for that. But additionally, in China, films that feature predominantly Asian casts, such as The Farewell or Crazy Rich Asians, haven't done as well in China as in other countries, because China already has a lot of homegrown blockbusters featuring predominantly Asian casts. So I think that the more we can rely on the domestic box office for Mulan and not on the second biggest box office draw, or the second biggest market in the world, which is China, then I think that the more money it makes in America, the better.
I think a couple things to keep in mind, though, is... Number one, they may pull it off the slate, but at some point they'll put it back on the slate.
Sure.
Like if they do pull it indefinitely, pull it from the slate in China, at some point they'll put it back on there. And I think that's a great observation about The Farewell and Crazy Rich Asians. But at the same time, both of those were Western films. I mean, they're really about American characters, whether it's, the Awkwafina character, who's an American character, goes over there. I forget the girl's name from Fresh Off the Boat. Why am I forgetting her name? Who's in Crazy Rich Asians. But whatever. So she's an American character. Constance Wu, thank you. So she's an American character. The Mulan story is such a Chinese epic story.
That's a really good point.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but I think at some point it'll get it. That's why I didn't bring up actually the whole idea about, what about China? Well, because whether it comes out now when it opens in America or whether it comes out 6 months from now, by the way, which some other Western films do. Some other Western films open in China well after they open in America. Yeah. Maybe not 6 months later, but it'll still be there and it'll still add up. So it's going to, but I think, the thing you bring up though, Aaron, I think is something we got to keep in mind. There are so many dynamics at play here when it comes to Mulan. But I personally think the bottom line is, if it opens with 85 plus, and if it opens even more than say an Aladdin, I don't think that means it's going to be $1 billion film, but I think it means it's going to do quite well. So we'll just have to wait and see. Guys, what do you think? Do you think an $85 million opening for Mulan would be acceptable? How do you think the whole China thing factors into it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Big Wave, who writes, "Hey, John, did you see the trailer for the new Tom Hanks movie Greyhound? Just dropped. And, oh my God, it does not disappoint. It looks like Captain Phillips meets Saving Private Ryan. The trailer was a little too long in my opinion, but man, Tom Hanks is amazing. I can't wait. What did you think?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, I did see the Greyhound trailer. It's one of these trailers that caught me by surprise because I didn't know they were even getting close to dropping a trailer for it, to be honest with you. So that was a really pleasant surprise. And I'll tell you what else. Listening to the synopsis for the film before, I wasn't really sure what the feel of the movie would be. and then the trailer dropped. It's my favorite trailer of the year so far. It doesn't mean the movie's going to be great. I'm just saying, as far as the trailer go, it's got character, it's got depth, it's got the action, it's got tension. It's got me sitting there gripping onto my seat just watching the damn trailer. And then what's the line Tom Hanks says? What are we going to do, sir? Unleash righteous fury, or some kind of badass line like that coming from a Tom Hanks? Coming from Mr. Rogers? Just makes it seem even more badass to me. I don't know. So yeah, guys, I saw this trailer. I absolutely adored it myself. Rob, you had a chance to take a look at this trailer. What did you think about the trailer to Greyhound?
Dude, okay. First of all, I love me a good World War II thriller. And give me something at sea. It's like it's two great tastes that taste great together. And I'm watching this trailer, and I'm like, this movie is so up my alley. Tom Hanks is, like you said, Saving Private Ryan, meets Captain Phillips. I'm like, yes. And I'll tell you, as I'm watching this, because I know something about naval warfare in that period of time. The end shot, normally they would give you this epic shot at the end where, I don't know, like the cow flies at the screen like in Twister, right? The old Twister shot. The shot of the wolf packs of U-boats. Just the one shot of the radar revealing. It's not like one, well, wolf pack I think is 3, but there's like 20 U-boats. And he's like, they're coming and whatever. I'm like, yes! I'm like, show me this movie now. I need to see this right now. And I've read some criticism online that there's been too much CG in it.
What are you talking about? It looked great.
I'm like, first of all, it looked great. The CG looked great. And second of all, like I was reading an article about how, I prefer the model work that they had, movies of the 60s or whatever. I'm like, look, either way, if you're looking at model ships, you still know they're model ships. It's just a different style. I thought doing ships at sea, CG water used to be a really hard thing to do. And I was looking at this and I'm like, these shots are more convincing than even Midway. Midway came out, 6 months ago or something?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so in on this movie. I was like you. I'm gripping my chair. Somebody said that the trailer was too long. Our viewer said that no, it wasn't. I wanted the whole movie right there. I'm like, give me more of this. I want more. I want depth charges. I want to see U-boats sinking. I want to see boats broken in half and burning. I love this stuff, John. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I think people need to keep in mind too. Like, remember, big grand scale CGI stuff will never look the way it's actually going to look on the big screen on a television broadcast screen. It always looks a little bit different. So you got to kind of, I thought it looked fantastic. Anyway, I did too. Aaron, you had a chance to check out this trailer. What did you think about it?
One of the things that always captivates me about watching these epic scale films is the sound. And I was so happy that I was listening to it because Rob was playing another trailer that was
at the same time. That's right.
At the same time, that was completely of a different genre.
Oops.
And so I put my headphones in, and I'm so glad that I did because I was able to really submerge myself, pun intended, in the world. And the way that the sound is done, I don't know if this is mixing. I'm not sure exactly what the term would be. But the way that when the submarine is going above and below water, you as the viewer, as the listener, feel like you are going above and below water.
Right.
This just the way that it made my heart, I could feel my heart beating in my chest, and it gave me an immediate tension. I felt my entire body tense up, and I felt instantly stressed out, which was how I felt the entire time I was watching 1917. So this is going to be another one of those movies that you're going to want to see in a theater to get the full experience. I feel like Tom Hanks is just the guy to play this role, but I love Stephen Graham too. I was really happy to. Is it Stephen or Stefan? He's you see him a lot in the trailer,
right.
And he's just done every movie. He's been in a million things, and I feel like this is a strong cast. I'm not really a war movie kind of person, but I just find myself so drawn to this. I'm excited to see it.
All right, question is, guys, have you had a chance to see this trailer for Greyhound? I personally loved it. Maybe you didn't. I thought the CGI looked good. Maybe you didn't. It's all good. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Doug Black, who writes, so, the early reactions for A Quiet Place Part 2 are out, and let's just say they look great. Some even saying better than the first. All of them saying that the tension is unreal. How excited does this make you? Like me, this is one of your most anticipated films of 2020, and these reviews make me all ghibli. Thanks, and keep up the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yes, listen, I thought a couple of years ago, I have stayed on this firm. I've rewatched a lot of these movies since. A Quiet Place was the best movie of the year. Should have been nominated. It didn't get nominated for Best Picture. I thought it should have been nominated for Best Picture. I also thought John Krasinski probably should have been nominated for Best Director when you consider that so much of this film was done even without dialogue. And he did a tremendous job with that. Quiet Place was quite simply outstanding. It's an outstanding film. I absolutely loved it. There's heart, family, emotion, and on top of that, monsters that rip you to pieces. I mean, it's got everything put in there, and I absolutely loved it. So that was the main reason why, coming into 2020, my personal most anticipated film of the year has been A Quiet Place 2. It doesn't always work out, but the first reactions are now coming in. And here are some of the first reactions. Megan Navarro's writing, Quiet Place Part 2 is not at all what I expected, and that's a great thing. A very creative sequel that goes to some unexpected and satisfying places. Bravo. So there's that. Mike Ryan writes, A Quiet Place Part 2 is Tension the movie. I have a stomach ache now from how tense this movie is. Also, it turned out to be a surprisingly great Cillian Murphy movie. Kate Eberland writes, A Quiet Place Part 2, a worthy world-expanding follow-up that builds on the original and finds its own thrills, chills, and emotions in the process. Audiences should still be banned from eating crunchy snacks during any and all screenings. That was, by the way, that was always the hard part, is when I always wait till there's noise on a screen to reach in for something. Quiet Place, you're going to sit there for like a half hour trying to find a good opportunity to eat something. Our friend Eric Davis writes, damn, A Quiet Place Part 2 rocks. Honestly, just as tense and terrifying as the first one. There are some sequences in the film that are a masterclass in suspense. Bravo, John Krasinski. Also so emotional too. Chris Killian writes, the use of sound in A Quiet Place Part 2 is still so vital. In what could easily have been a retread, John Krasinski finds unbelievably creative ways to keep the movie niche from getting stale. The entire cast is fantastic and riveting from top to bottom. On and on and on it goes. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there are no bad reviews out there. I'm just sitting here to tell you that I can't find any negative reviews on this thing. And I'm not surprised. Because when you look at the first Quiet Place movie, you could be forgiven if you thought it falls into the gimmick of, okay, monsters who find you by sound, so you got to be quiet. You'd be forgiven if you think this would be a little horror movie that falls just in that little niche. But again, it's about family. It's about loss. It's about, you're struggling parents struggling with their failures as parents. I mean, there's so much depth and emotion to this movie that I find it absolutely staggering. And so I'm not surprised at all, because if it was just niche and just kind of, there was a quirky kind of shtick to it for the first one, then yeah, maybe I could expect that the second one would fall flat. But the first one wasn't that. It was brilliantly crafted and beautifully assembled and put together with again, entire stretches of no sound. I had no reason to believe that John Krasinski couldn't find a way to do it again. And now, I haven't seen it myself. Maybe I'll hate the movie. A lot of the earlier reactions for Birds of Prey were quite good, and I ended up not liking the film. And maybe that'll happen here. But I got to say right now, it's good to hear these types of reactions from people. Aaron, you heard these reactions about it. Are you surprised? And how does this affect your anticipation level for the film?
I have to admit, I didn't see the first one.
Oh,
I know. But now I'm excited because I get to do a double feature. I'm going to see the first one at home, and then I'll go rush to the theater and I'll see the second one. But yes, I have heard incredible things about this. And as I already pointed out today, I love sound. And so,
so good.
And in the loving of sound is also the loving of the absence of sound, which is when you really can truly appreciate it. I also think it's fantastic that John Krasinski and Emily Blunt worked together, and clearly it went so well the first time they decided to do it again. I think that's kind of a magical Hollywood story right there. But it reminds me, when you talk about how easily it would be to fall under the sort of trope of don't make too much noise. You're going to attract the monsters. It reminds me of Bird Box. When you have characters that have something to lose and are fighting for something and fighting against something, usually their own personal demons, that's always what makes it interesting. The thing that they're running away from is just sort of the carriage of their own personal journey. And it sounds like that's what a lot of this is. So I'm very excited to see it. Double feature.
Rob, you had a chance to you read all this. You're hearing the reviews and the responses. You did see the first A Quiet Place. How do these kind of early reactions strike you?
Well, I think it sounds great. When you have the creative team from the first movie come back, it's usually because they're excited about carrying the story forward in some new and unique way. And I'm looking forward to this. I thought that, the first Quiet Place had such an irresistible hook that had this built-in brilliant suspense element that, how often does the audience, the actual physical act of watching a movie accentuate what's going on the screen?
Right.
That never happened. So to see that, and they've ratcheted up the tension even more, I think it's great. One of the sequels that I was surprised by, horror sequels, it wasn't directed by Danny Boyle, but was 28 Weeks Later. 28 Days Later I really liked, but when 28 Weeks Later started from the very beginning, it was a different movie, but I thought it was equally as good. And I really enjoy that. I'm like, I wish all sequels were kind of like this. And it's really reassuring to hear that they've broadened the story. They're telling a different story. It's not just a rehash, but they've still got the element of these creatures and hunting via sound. And I think this is going to be, look, dude, the trailers.
So good.
The trailers for this movie have been great. And even the way they show the monsters in these trailers in broad daylight, and they're not hiding anything, and it's that one long shot of her backing up down the small town street. It was amazing. I'm like, this looks really, really, really good. So I my confidence is very high on this, and really looking forward to it. And hearing these great words just makes it that much more exciting.
Question here is, guys, what do you think about these early reactions? And what did you think about the first film? Do you like it as much as me? Do you not like it as much as me? Whatever the case may be, jump on down to the comments section below and let me know how you guys are feeling. Where's your anticipation level right now for A Quiet Place 2? All right. With that down, let's move on to the fourth and final main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Isaac Tristan, who writes, "Hello, John. Big fan of yours. Thank you so much since the AMC days. So I just read The Last of Us is going to get a TV series adaptation on HBO. As someone who loves the video game, I cannot wait to see Joel and Ellie on the live screen. My question is, what do you think of this news, and could it have worked as a movie? Thanks, and bring on the filthy." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, Last of Us is probably, I think it might be fair to say, the video game that people have been waiting to see transferred into a movie. Look, I always say that video games, they're not made to be narrative storytelling. They are made for gameplay and incorporate brilliantly, at least some of them do, narrative storytelling to accentuate gameplay and blah, blah, blah. But there are some that truly, when you look down and sit with their narratives, they truly are cinematic. And Last of Us might be the best example of that ever. Uncharted, Thief's End is very, very good. God of War has some really big potential, but I think Last of Us is the game. It's the game that I think kind of represents the pinnacle of what could possibly be. You know what I mean? And there have been years now that people have been talking about, so-and-so bought the movie rights and it kind of lapsed, and these people are going to develop something, then nothing ever happens, and we've just been sitting and waiting. Well, now we're not waiting any longer. It's official. It's been announced. The Last of Us is being turned into an HBO series, and it's being brought to us by the guy who was the showrunner of Chernobyl, probably one of the greatest television events we've had in a long time, because Chernobyl was just awesome. And by the way, the kind of showrunner, if you will, of the Last of Us game, Neil Druckmann, is the two of them are working together on this series. It's going to be a live action series for Last of Us. Now, I think this is going to be brilliant. I think this is going to be good. On the question of, would I rather have seen it as a movie or as a TV show? Let me say this first and foremost. Both carry incredible potential. And I think that this movie version is going, or this television version, I should say, I think, who knows, it might suck, but you've got every recipe that you need to really put this together for something delicious. You've got great source material. You've got the mastermind, or one of the masterminds behind the originating game itself. And you've got a guy who just gave us Chernobyl all at the same time, working with one of the best networks that's got a reputation for putting out quality stuff all at the same time. So I think this is going to be great. I do. That said, while I think it's an absolute win, we win if it's a TV show, we win if it's a movie. I would personally rather it as a movie. Personally. Again, emphasizing again off the top, that's not saying that I'm not super stoked for an HBO show. I am super stoked for an HBO show. I think it's going to be fantastic and I can't wait. I think I would have been even a little bit more excited if it was a movie. Because I think if you took this movie, listen, I think there's a lot of people out there who don't believe in the story of Last of Us. I think there's a lot of people out there who do not believe that the core foundational story of Last of Us is strong enough that it could actually be done really well, really effectively in a 2-hour movie, and that it has to be drawn out over 8 episodes for it to work. I do believe in Last of Us. I do believe in the strength of the core story of Last of Us. Now, it also goes to the point that today there's a feeling today, guys, that everything has to be a TV show. Everybody thinks everything would work better as a TV show. And I have not, by the way, we made that the topic of today's question of the day, whether you want it to be a TV show or movie, and I haven't looked at the results yet, but I can already tell you what they're going to be. It's going to be overwhelmingly people want it as a TV show. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But people are going to overwhelmingly want it as a TV show. Now watch me go over, and I'm going to be totally wrong. But people are going to watch a TV show because there's this feeling right now that everything needs to be television, and you can't possibly do well thought out, well fleshed out stories in movies themselves. And guys, I'm going to tell you this right now. If Shawshank Redemption was let's say a full-length novel, we know it was based on written material, but if it was a full-length novel and you look at it and stuff like that, and then you ask the question today, let's say there was no Shawshank Redemption movie, and you ask the question today, do you think Shawshank Redemption can work as a movie? Everybody would say, no. God, John, that's a story that takes place over decades with so many well thought out and fleshed out characters, whether it's Andy Dufresne or Red, or, you know, how are people going to understand San Juanejo if you just try to cram it all into one movie? And, you know, how are you going to feel the emotional impact of the older inmate who gets out and then ultimately hangs himself because he didn't know how to survive in the outside world? This takes place over decades with multiple characters, with their own storylines. You cannot possibly do this in one movie. It has to be 3 85-episode seasons. That's what people would say today. That's exactly what look at The Godfather. The Godfather, which was based on a novel, as a matter of fact, but if The Godfather had never come out before and it was a big popular novel today, and you suggested we're going to do The Godfather as one movie, they'd say you can't. Look, you can barely, season 1, Michael come home from the war, understanding the family and the family business and all that kind of stuff. There's enough there for one season. Second season, Papa gets shot. Michael gets revenge. Michael now has to go to Italy. He gets married. His wife gets murdered. He seeks revenge on the Don who does it. John, that's an entire season of television. And then third season, Michael comes back. You end season 2 with Michael coming back now. He comes back and he takes over the family business. Now he's the Don. And it comes time to settle all family accounts. And season 3 ends with the door. You can't do it in a movie, John. Can't be done. Can't be done. Guess what? It's the greatest movie of all time, or one of the greatest movies of all time. So the point I'm making here is that if you are skilled enough and you have a strong enough core story and you cut out all the filler, a skilled filmmaker, a skilled storyteller can take these wide scoping stories and make epic pieces of entertainment out of them in a 2.5 hour frame, 2 hour frame, 3 hour frame, whatever. It can be done and be done great and be oh so satisfying. Of course, we were just talking about Chernobyl being amazing. So you can do that in television as well. That's why you get Breaking Bad. That's why you get Game of Thrones. That's why you get Chernobyl. That's why you get like Battlestar Galactica, and why you get Sons of Anarchy, and why you get all these incredible television. And they'll do a great job with Last of Us 2. I just think that the core story, whereas a lot of other people may not believe in its strength, I believe the strength in the core story enough that in the right hands of the right storyteller with enough skill, cutting out all the filler, you can deliver a character-rich, plot-deep, thrilling and satisfying action, horror, drama, all wrapped into one glorious package. And they will be able to do it on HBO. They will. And it's going to be awesome. But I think they could have done it as a movie too. I really do. And I think it would have been even better. We don't know that for sure. But that's just kind of my thought on that. Anyway, Rob, we have been talking about this topic for a long time. When is The Last of Us coming? Oh, then there's news. And then there's more news. And then nothing happens. You're hearing about it now making its way to HBO. Being done by the showrunner of Chernobyl. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I've often talked to you about how the first time I played Uncharted, I felt like, wow, this is the closest I've ever come to playing a movie. I was so involved with the characters. I was so involved. The voice acting was so great. But I felt that The Last of Us took that to another level.
Yeah.
It really was a very immersive story. I felt like I was completely wrapped up in the narrative. Loved the game. And it's a long-form story. I mean, there was enough there that I think it's going to work great as a series. I'm excited to see it. I like those characters. That's why, I mean, people talk about those characters as if they're, movie characters already. Movie or TV characters. They're completely immersed in that story. And I think it's going to be a great HBO series. And I think the creative team, I mean, they're going A-list all the way on this. Oh, yeah. And it's something that I think is going to be absolutely fantastic. I don't know. I mean, could it have made a good movie? Sure. But there's a lot of story there. I mean, you get caught up. I mean, that's a long form narrative. And maybe even the game itself, there's enough there for a 10 episode series.
Oh, yeah. There's enough there that you can do.
Sure. I think it's going to be, HBO's been crushing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Watchmen, I thought I might not have loved it, but it was sure interesting television. The Outsider, I mean, for all of its weird, goofy, supernatural, that was in the book. I read the book. But man, that is A-list all the way. Again, the cast, the way it's shot. I mean, we're seeing some great material coming out of HBO. They don't have Game of Thrones to fall back on anymore. So what they're trying to do is they're going after interesting properties, and they're doing some really great stuff. And the fact that HBO is going after this, a video game adaptation, who would have thought that's what HBO would have been looking? Well, this is the one to do.
And just a side note, I remember when AT&T was taking over HBO, and the at the time creative head guy of HBO stepped down. A lot of us, and Rob, I think it's fair to say you and I both as well.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people, including us here, were kind of worried about the direction HBO was going to go, and they have stayed very strong with really great sounding, not only stuff they're putting on now, but stuff like Last of Us that they're bringing with the showrunner of Chernobyl. I mean, they have held it up when a lot of us were kind of worried about the direction they would go.
I mean, aren't they putting out the Plot Against America as well?
Oh yeah, sure. With Winona Ryder.
I mean, are they really?
I love that book. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's basically an alternate history where anti-Semitism rises up in America. I love that book, and I mean, the fact that they're doing that, HBO's crushing it.
They're doing really good stuff. And I got to tell you what, everybody's been talking, including me, been talking about, Disney Plus is what's going to threaten Netflix. Disney Plus is what's going to threaten Netflix. Meanwhile, really quietly, like a great white shark in the shallows, here comes HBO Max. It's I mean, the content they're putting together is incredible. Anyway, Aaron, you had a chance to read about this. What do you think about them turning Last of Us into an HBO series over there?
I think it's a phenomenal idea. I've been following Craig Mazin on Twitter since I fell in love with Chernobyl. Tom and I were salivating for every new episode of Chernobyl because of the way that the story beautifully unfolded. And sure, I agree with you, John. Could it be made into a movie? Of course it could. If it's a good story, it's a good story that can be translated into a film. It can be translated into a television show. Could Game of Thrones have been a movie? Sure, it could have. I'm glad that it was a television show, because when you have more hours to fill and you have someone as creative and capable as a writer like Craig Mazin, each episode, it's not fluff. It's actually rich and it's saturated with character and story, and you can really get into the motivations behind why these people are doing the things that they're doing, and you're allowed to do a deep dive into that. The fact that he's working directly with Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog, which is the production company that does the actual video games, all the creative pieces, like Rob was saying, are a part of this, and they're working together, which I'm really excited about. This is Tom's favorite video game. He is over the moon about this. But also, there's a sequel to the video game coming out as well.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of story here that they can unearth. And from what I've read about the story, because I haven't played it myself, this really does have more of a narrative than, say, Super Mario Brothers, which actually Tom and I watched honest movie trailers of last night, and just, wow, Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo as Mario and Luigi. It was really kind of sad. I was actually looking at the art, though, that when you put the art up for it, and if you look at the characters, they kind of look like a young Ellen Page and an older Jim Sturgis.
Well, I don't know, you probably didn't hear about this. Ellen Page actually sued them. She said that because they
ripped off her likeness.
They said it was not. We just created a girl. She probably did. She did probably. But they insisted we were not using her as a basis for this. And I can't remember what the outcome of that case was. But yeah, Ellen Page actually sued them for it. So I don't know. I can't remember what the outcome of it was though.
That's
I don't
just
remember.
Bad business. If I'm Ellen Page and I see this, I call Naughty Dog and I go, okay, guys, how can we work together on this? How can I be part of this? Like, why sue them, when you can just join them?
Did she do the voice?
No.
Okay.
See, there you go. If you're Ellen Page, go, hey, guys, I see that your main character looks exactly like me. I would love to. Clearly, I've made an impression on you, so I'd like to be in bed with you guys. How can I help? How can I be involved with this? Maybe you would like for me to do the motion capture. I can give you all of Ellen Page's facial expressions because they're mine. I can also give you Ellen Page's voice because that's mine too. Let's work together, and then all of a sudden, Ellen Page is an executive producer of the television series that makes a ton of money, and there you go, another thing. But
you just made her case for her by not even knowing about the lawsuit and saying, man, she looks exactly like Ellen Page. You just kind of made her, like, I don't know, for all we know, she did make that call, and they said, no, we did not base this on you. And she said, okay, I feel like you're trying to capitalize on my likeness, and therefore I'm going to sue. So I don't know all the background to it, but it is a crazy story. So listen, bottom line here, guys, I think this is going to be awesome. You got the showrunner from Chernobyl, the architect of the original game behind it. This is going to be pretty epic. Now, I got to admit, I still think it would be even better as a movie. Rob and Aaron disagree. Let's go over and take a look. I'm sure the vast majority of you disagree too. Let's see if I'm going to be stunned here. So the results of today's question of the day, which was, Last of Us isn't getting a movie, but instead an HBO series. Would you have preferred a TV show or movie treatment for the game? And you guys, a little over 2,000 of you guys have voted. We put this up before, and as I predicted, 87.5% of you are saying you want it as a TV show, and it's going to be awesome. It will be great. 12.5% of you, if you think like me, it's like, oh man, it would be even better as a movie. But whatever, it just finally looks like we're getting Last of Us brought to a live action version of the screen. Question is, guys, how do you feel about this? Are you excited about this? Do you think it's good that they're bringing in the original architect of the game to work with the Chernobyl showrunner? Do you think maybe that's a mistake? Or do you have some opinions? Like, can you see anybody other than, because everybody wants to see Hugh Jackman playing this. And I'm thinking, no, that's a little too on the nose. But maybe you do. How are you feeling about it? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. That will wrap up all of our main topics today. We're now going to move over and start taking your live questions that you guys have been sending in and see what you guys want to talk about. I'm sure we're going to talk about more about these topics as you guys send in questions. But before we do, as we like to do around here, we're now going to take just a short 4-minute break. Just a couple minute break, give us a chance to stretch our legs, rest the vocal cords, go refill our drinks, give you a chance to run and use the bathroom yourself. So if you will hang tight, guys, and not go anywhere, we will be right back. right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. Now let's just jump right in to the live questions. And we're going to get things started off here with Damo Davies, who writes, I apologize for not being more clear yesterday. In the first Mission Impossible movie, Vanessa Redgrave plays a supporting character called Max. Her daughter is in the most recent movie Fallout. She's played by Vanessa Kirby, and she is the White Widow. So, like, we talked about that yesterday, Rob, about how I had no idea that these characters, there was any connection there whatsoever. Did you know about that?
I did not know, but he's bringing back Henry Czerny from the first movie in the new ones, and I love him. You don't. He's so good in Clear and Present Danger. I love that guy.
I love that movie.
And he was Henry Czerny was just in what's the when the woman got married and they're trying to kill her. Not Happily Ever After. You know, it just came out. It was so good.
Samara Weaving? The one with Ready or Not?
Ready or Not, yes. I mean, Henry Czerny was in that. He was the patriarch of the family.
Right. He was the dad.
What's his last name?
Czerny. Czerny. I mean, I love. He's one of my favorite character actors, and he was in the first Mission Impossible, and Craig Mazin is bringing him back. But I didn't know that Vanessa Redgrave was the mother of that character.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't.
I like it even more now.
I don't know if that's true, but I'll have to look into that. Okay. Next up comes to us from. Where do we go? Willow writes, regarding actors that I initially knew when they were older, for the longest time I've only known Marlon Brando as from The Godfather. Then I watched A Streetcar Named Desire. Holy shit, that's what Vito Corleone used to look like. Stella! Yeah, so this came up on the show the other day, guys. Somebody was asking, you know, I can't remember which actor they used as the example. They said, you know, I've only known this actor. Oh, it was Knives Out.
Daniel Craig?
No, the lead.
Oh, John Johnson.
No, sorry. The patriarch who dies.
Christopher Plummer.
Christopher Plummer.
From Sound of Music.
Good Canadian kid. That's right. So they used that as the example. It's like, I totally forgot it was that. And I was trying to remember the name of an actor who I only got to know as an older actor. And then you realize they did something a lot when they were, like, something big when they were younger, and it's like completely catches you off guard. Do you guys, either of you guys, have an actor like that to you that you kind of knew as they were an older actor, but then you realized they did some incredible role when they were younger?
Paul Newman.
That's the example I brought up, because I brought up Cool Hand Luke.
Cool Hand Luke is my favorite movie of all time. And
is it?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Well, Cool Hand Luke was the first movie that I ever saw where I realized that there was something where I noticed cinematography, and I didn't know what it was. All I knew, you know, there's that shot where the prison guard, when they're out digging the trenches, and he looks up and you can see the reflection of the bird in his sunglasses. And I just remember thinking to myself, okay, I don't know what person on the set is in charge of that thing, of making that look like that, but that's incredible. And so before I became an actor, and I love it. I love everything about it.
Wait, you only saw Paul Newman as an older man, like in what, Color of Money?
No,
yeah.
I did too. And
really?
It wasn't until later that I started, like, because it was a long time till I saw, like, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, or in particular Cool Hand Luke. This was my all-time favorite, is Cool Hand. By the way, that's the movie that with the line, what we have here is a failure to communicate. That's Cool Hand Luke.
What we have here is a failure to communicate. Oh God, I hate that guy.
That's exactly how he said it too.
But also, like, if you look at Helen Mirren, you know, I mean, she mostly did a lot of stage work in her 20s and early 30s. But if you go back and look at her interviews, I mean, she's a smoking fox at 80.
She is such a smoke show.
Think about her at 25.
You know who else was quite the dish? Judi Dench.
Yeah.
Judi Dench could she was very steamy. I mean, look, one of my favorite actresses of all time is Catherine Deneuve, and I think she still looks good now, but you go back and you watch The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, or you watch Belle de Jour.
Well, God, I mean, Alec Baldwin. I mean, gosh, he was.
Just go back to the Shadow.
Shadow or Malice.
One of the stories, though, bringing up.
We can't stay too long on this topic, though.
Yeah, but bringing up Marlon Brando. One of my favorite stories is how when shooting The Godfather, he would show up on set. I believe it was The Godfather, where he would show up on set not wearing any pants, so that they would not shoot him below the waist because he had gained so much weight. And so he would just show up and he'd walk on set in his underwear, and he's like, okay, there you go.
All right, we move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Luke, I Am Your Plumber.
Love that.
And Luke, I Am Your Plumber writes, hello, John. I know you don't mind if movies get remade, but what about certain classics like To Kill a Mockingbird? And I recently found out that Robert Duvall played Boo Radley in the movie when I had my kids watch the movie. Thank you and have a great day. I am all for remaking classics. I am all for it. Now, you got to be careful. You have to treat it a certain way when you get into these classics, whether it's a To Kill a Mockingbird or whether it's a Gone with the Wind or whether it's something like that. But listen, I say go ahead and remake Star Wars. Not while Star Wars is ongoing, but at some point in the future, go ahead and remake Star Wars. Look, my philosophy of remakes have always remained the same. If you make a remake and it's good, yay, we have another good movie to enjoy. If they make a remake and it's bad, oh well, we still have the original, so I still don't see any downside of it.
Did you see that Taika Waititi is doing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory animated series? It's not exactly a remake, but
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I would love to see what Taika Waititi is going to do with my absolute favorite childhood book.
That's going to be interesting. All right, next one up here comes to us from... Where are we at? Initial D's writes, John, The Americans is in my top 5 shows. So good in every way. I definitely recommend it. Also, I watched C and I liked it. Oh, that's the Jason Momoa show on Apple Plus. And I liked it. It was much better than expected from the trailers. I would give the first episode a try. Taking it off here, boss. Taking it off here, boss. Classic. So somebody brought up The Americans the other day. That is a show that has probably been on my must-watch list for the longest, that I haven't actually gotten around to, because everybody I know who's watched that show says it's fantastic. They all say it's fantastic. So I do absolutely have to get around to it. And then we were talking about I didn't think Apple TV Plus looked all that good. And I've seen 2 shows on it so far. I've seen Morning Show, and I've seen For All Mankind. And they're both great. So it's made me really reconsider my position on Apple TV Plus. And C is definitely one of those shows to me that just looked idiotic beyond words.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to have to check it out and I'll have to give it a shot. All right. A man nicknamed Pooh writes, my top 10 favorite movies. Number 10, Heat. Number 9, Gladiator. Number 8, Back to the Future. Number 7, Braveheart. Number 6, LA Confidential. That movie does not get brought up enough, by the way. Number 5, The Shawshank Redemption. Number 4, Saving Private Ryan. Number 3, Die Hard. Also the greatest Christmas movie ever. Again, not a Christmas movie. Number 2, The Empire Strikes Back, and number 1, The Godfather. What a great mix of films.
I can totally get behind that list. That list is, I'm down with that list.
That is a strong list. And also, I know you get behind it as a Christmas movie thing.
Absolutely. It's about a man who just wants to get back together with his family.
That's what Christmas is all about.
If that isn't what Christmas is all about, I don't know. That's a great list of man nickname. I like it when they get mixed in there like that. All right. McKeel writes, I don't know when they added it, but if you didn't know, you can now get Hulu. Oh, yeah, that's right. I heard about this. You can now get the Hulu no ads version, Disney Plus and ESPN Plus bundle for $18.99 a month. Yep, I'm going to have to sign up for that because I have all 3 and I spend more than $18.99 a month on them. So I'm going to have to go ahead and do that. Rob, you seem disheartened there. What's going on?
Not disheartened. I just think about Hulu, and the only reason to have Hulu is to watch Manifest.
Oh, gosh. Your hate watch show?
Man, does that show not disappoint. Somebody's got to give those creators an award because, my God, the fact that those actors have... Manifest is the greatest bad show that's currently airing on any network now.
The premise is great. So, okay, here's the premise. A plane took off from an airport with a full passenger manifest.
Okay.
And to the passengers, they took off, hit some turbulence, landed, and it was 5 years?
5 years later.
It was 5 years later.
They passed through a time vortex.
And everybody in the real world just thought the plane disappeared
and
5
died.
years
They
ago.
all thought everybody who was on the plane died.
That sounds like a great show.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah,
now hang on.
And then...
Now, hang on. Also...
They got the writers from the Mario and Luigi, from the Super Mario Brothers movie to do it.
The people who are on the plane inexplicably start getting callings. So they're drawn toward helping other people or solving... somebody might be trying to kill themselves or somebody might be having an accident. Because, when you go through a time warp, suddenly you inexplicably learn how to help people.
Right,
not
your
around the world,
altruism meter goes up.
but in their neighborhood. So it's 2 outlandish premises that don't work. But now there's ancient prophecies. They've brought in Da Vinci Code elements to it. I mean, there's relationships. There's love triangles. I mean, this show is so absurd. But it does it with such conviction.
And do the other people realize, like, because
we need to move on, guys.
Okay, all right,
because
sorry.
we're not even talking
Rob,
about
we'll talk about this later.
The topic of the question.
I'll call you later, Rob.
It's the Da Vinci Code meets God friended me, basically.
Touched by an angel. It's just ridiculous, but I love it.
All right, the next one up comes to us from an anonymous viewer who writes, I agree with you 100% that when making a comic book film, the goal is really to adapt the source material and make the best film that they can do, in which I look at any source material, I look at it on its own terms. Yeah, so that's been coming up a little bit lately. Hey, listen, we've got some of our viewers who feel very strongly, as some others do, that, hey, listen, if you're going to make a comic book adaptation or a something adaptation, make it as true to the source as you can. That's what the main goal should be. I have always and unpopularly believed that that is not the main goal. The main goal is to make the best movie possible. And that means you got to adapt. And, you know, when you look at some of the greatest comic book films of all time, they're nothing like their comic book adaptations. Captain America Civil War takes some thematic similarities from it, but it is really a completely different movie. One of the greatest comic book movies of all time. I think X-Men Days of Future Past is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. Nothing like the comic book. Some thematic similarities, sure, so on and so forth, because they knew you had to make the best movie possible. That's the important thing. Suthius writes, it can't be undone, or at least that's what the red floating guy had to say. Maybe you want to go talk to him, okay? Go grab your hammer and you go fly. You talk to him. 0 Fs were given by Clint when talking back to Thor, one of his best moments in the MCU. Listen, that in a movie that you can arguably say maybe at some points, talking about Endgame, relied a little bit too much on fan service here and there and blah, blah. Okay, yeah, sure. Because of all the big bombastic stuff, like the portal scene and all that kind of stuff, you do sometimes forget and overlook. There are moments in that movie, kind of like the moment in Infinity War with Thor talking to Rocket, then what else do I have to lose? You know, because of the big crowd-pleasing moments, sometimes we overlook these real little gem of scenes. And while I don't think that scene with Hawkeye is on the same level as the scene of Thor talking with Rocket, it was a great moment. And maybe his best scene in all of the MCU. That might have been his best scene, Rob. Like, when you look back at that scene, where does it stand for you?
Well, no, it is great. And you know, it's also you're watching him come to grips. Like, Hawkeye's the most grounded, down-to-earth Avenger. Yeah. Really. And when he's saying this, it's like he's like the last guy. He's trying to make sense of it when he says it's so good. It's just so good.
Just a magnificent moment for him. Okay, next up, Canada Rocks writes, I'm recommending the YouTube channel Pony Smasher, which is director David F. Sandberg's channel. Oh, really? He does fantastic videos about the art of filmmaking. My favorite is the one about problem solving, where he uses examples from Shazam. Are you familiar? No. I mean, I'm familiar with him, but I'm not familiar at all with the channel at all. But I think that sounds fascinating. Rob,
I've watched that video. It is a good video. I didn't know it was a channel, though. I've only watched that video.
What's the basic idea?
Well, he talks about script problems and how they had, like, there were elements when there were certain things they had to reshoot things because it was winter out and they had to change the jackets, and it was really interesting, and it, you know, logistical problems that they found in post, and it's really worth watching.
Sounds like a free masterclass.
It's really good.
Yeah, it really does. That sounds great.
But that's the only one I watched. I didn't know there was a whole channel about it.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, a good Canadian kid writes, one of two. You might find this interesting. One of the languages that Marvel movies gets dubbed is mine, Tamil. One dubbing artist was dubbed for Iron Man since 2008. But for Endgame, they changed for Iron Man and Black Widow. Funny, they both die for unknown reasons. To voice Iron Man, they got respectable actors in Hollywood. But the backlash was equivalent of Ben Affleck casting as Batman.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not understanding what the question is. Do you guys...
I don't think he's asking a question. He's just saying that, like, so there are... I actually saw a documentary about the voice actors who do the dubbing, and they become superstars in their countries. And
for he's the other saying, countries, international markets.
Yes, so there were the actors who were voice dubbing for Iron Man and Black Widow in all of the movies, you know, had developed this fan base in their countries, and then when they switched the casting and got Hollywood actors or more, I guess, more internationally famous people to do the dubbings, there was a backlash within those countries of, hey, why did you replace our favorite voice actors?
Man, could you imagine replacing Tony Stark after 21 Marvel movies. In the 22nd Marvel movie, you replace Iron Man.
Voice, yeah.
The Tamil, they must have been pissed. I would have been pissed.
Sure, absolutely.
That is okay. That is interesting. A good Canadian kid. Thank you for that. I'm glad you knew about that. All right. Good Italian kid writes, the two things I am. Hey, John, scary times here in Italy. Given the outbreak of the coronavirus, I work in schools and they are closed. I watch movies and the cinemas are closed. Luckily, I have Netflix. Pick 3 must-watch movies there. Your choice.
Buongiorno.
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 I mean, I would just go. Well, let's just call the original Star Wars trilogy Star Wars. So they're Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Shawshank Redemption. If that's what I had to just sit down and run through my run play all the time, all day, waiting to get back to my regular life. And by the way, here's hoping you get a chance to get back to your regular life there real quick and real soon. All the best wishes to you guys. That's why I've Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Shawshank Redemption. Do you guys have some go-tos that would be yours? A 3 you had to pick?
Come on, man. Love is Blind was the number 2 choice on Netflix last night, that reality series.
Can I just say...
I think that's the way you got to go.
Can I just say... Okay, so last night, we were at the hockey game.
Yes, we were.
And our friend Kat, she was there too. Mm-hmm. So Kat was over here the other night because her and Ann go and do this dance class, right?
They are so funny.
They're hilarious. I love those two.
They wanted that dance cam on them so bad.
Oh my god! They were every time they were like
dancing.
Oh my god! It was something to see. There might have been some alcohol involved. Anyway, so Kat was over here, and I now hate Kat. Because she was over here the other night, and she told my wife about this show. I'm watching this trashy reality show called Love is Blind. And
I had to watch it too.
And she goes,
Chrissy Teigen is tweeting about it. I don't know what it is.
So she goes, you got to watch it. So yesterday, Ann and I get back from Disneyland. And we've got like 2 hours, right, before we got to get ready and go down to Staples Center for the hockey game. So we decided we're going to lay down for a couple hours to relax a bit. And she's like, I got to put this on because Kat wanted me to watch it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I just close my eyes and go fall asleep. And I hear this show. I'm not even looking at it. I hear this show and I was getting angry. Because I was thinking, is this how stupid the human race has become? Is this how utterly stupid and pathetic the human race has become? And Anna's like, I'm like, Ann, how can you watch this trash? And she goes, I know, but I can't take my eyes off it. And I guess that's the appeal. Like they're in there talking about true love and you're going to walk out of here in 10 days and marry somebody. It's like, how stupid do you have to be?
Dude, I had to watch, I watched the whole thing and last night.
You watched the whole thing?
The reunion show dropped.
What even got you to start watching that,
show?
Rob?
My girlfriend Elizabeth got me watching it. She's like, we're watching the show. I'm like, all right. I was captivated.
I feel like those shows, The Bachelor, apparently Love is Blind, they are the equivalent of Doritos because there are scientists in a lab who go, okay, what is the exact chemical makeup that we need this to have in order to make people addicted to it? So even though they know how awful it is for you, they're just going to keep on eating it because it's got that addictive property. It's the same thing if you watch the show Unreal, starring one of our groomsmen, Josh Kelly. The show Unreal really took a deep dive into the psychology behind how these reality shows are created and how they are manipulated to make people addicted to them. That's why I can't even start watching them because I loathe them to no end.
But you won't stop watching
But I won't stop watching it.
Oh, Love is Blind has a premise, an irresistible premise.
I won't even. What is the premise?
The premise is that these two people who never meet face to face are talking to each other. They're in these pods. And you never see the person.
It's not just 2 people. It's like
there's a whole group,
bunch of women, big bunch of men.
It's like a reality dating show.
Yeah,
but they never see each other.
But they have to decide before they've ever.
So they decide whether or not they actually like people based on their personality.
Oh, they have to decide whether they're going to marry the person based on personality.
Now, I will admit this though, I only heard the first 15 minutes. I was disgusted, but I mean. But my wife, like, I woke up, like, okay, she goes, I only slept for like 10 minutes. Like, why do you only sleep for 10 minutes? She goes, because I couldn't stop watching this stupid, terrible show. I just couldn't stop watching it.
I feel the same way. I got sucked in.
I don't know. Maybe if I watched a full few episodes, maybe I would love it. Who knows? Maybe I'm just judging a book by its cover too much.
Love it.
There's too much great television on right now.
I haven't seen The Americans yet.
Yeah, there's just too many wonderful narrative shows.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't even want to hit the remote, and it just replay. The next episode just starts playing. I'm like, the remote's Elizabeth's asleep or something, and the remote's on the other side of the bed. I can't even get up to wake her up. I don't want to do it. I just sit there and watch it. So
all right, let's keep moving here. 50 Shades writes, I couldn't watch the live shows yesterday, so I watched a few hours later, clicked on that video, then I immediately clicked the like button, and then I noticed that my like was number 666, and looked to the left and saw the stream ended 6 hours ago. Creepy. By the way, just a little side note on 666. Of course, if you guys didn't see the video I put up there yesterday, it looks like Lucifer Season 6 is going to happen. The showrunners have signed on to do it. Tom Ellis has now signed on to do it. So we're just waiting for an official word now. So, and some people have been tweeting me saying it'll be a missed opportunity if they don't call it season 666.
But we were the ones that said that on this show first.
Oh, did we? See,
yes.
We've done too many shows. I can't even remember that stuff now.
Yeah, that's something if you're stuck at home and you can't leave the house for some reason. Go ahead and watch seasons 1 through 5 of Lucifer. You'll see my friends Leslie. Yet. Oh, that's right. I should probably know that because I'm in season 5. I'm in season 5, and my agent was like, "Why don't we have that scene for your demo reel?" I was like, "It's not out yet." So yes, I should probably know that.
But yeah, watch that one because that one's great. Okay, next one up. 50 Shades of right. Since you're forgetting actors' names so often, do you really think you can beat Dan Murrell? Your words, not mine. Cough, cough. Elizabeth Taylor. Yeah, I froze on Elizabeth Taylor. Oh yeah, I can. Oh yes, I can beat Dan Murrell. But
what?
Oh yeah, no. But here's what I said. Here's specifically what I said. If I play Dan Murrell in 10 matches, he'll win 7, maybe 8. But I can beat Dan Murrell. But if I had to go into a one-on-one match and I had to put $100 down, I'm putting the $100 on Dan.
Who's Dan Murrell?
Dan Murrell is probably the greatest movie trivia champion of all time.
Oh. He's also one of the nicest guys in the whole YouTube movie pundit space.
Very, really, really nice guy. Really like him. But right now I stand 1-on-1 with Dan. He beat me on Schmodown. I beat him on movie fights. So at some point, there's going to have to be a reckoning. At some point, there will have to be a reckoning. But he's great. He's really, really great. Okay, next up. Russell Amador writes, "Hey, John, word is that the Bermuda movie has I don't know what movie that is. The word is that a Bermuda movie, the Bermuda movie, has got a hold of a new director in Scott Derrickson and even a potential male lead in Chris Evans. The concept of the Bermuda Triangle is a rather interesting one with all these unexplained disappearances. Any thoughts?" Well, first, I didn't even know they were doing one.
It was announced yesterday.
But I'm shocked that, listen, the Bermuda Triangle mystery and the whole thing of the Bermuda Triangle has been around for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. I'm honestly, now that you mention it, I'm just shocked there hasn't been 5 of them already. I'm just shocked. And
there was
Scott
that
Derrickson
great
would be
TV
great for that.
miniseries that Dean Devlin and Bryan Singer produced.
I don't remember that one.
It was like 3 parts triangle.
I do not remember that one. But I'm down. Anything. Look, you attach Scott Derrickson, especially to something that sounds like this. I'm totally down. I'm totally down for that. All right. Next up, Sheik writes, "If we eventually get another Justice League, do you think Pattinson's Batman would be in it or a recast?" I don't believe. Again, this is not insider information. I'm not saying this is fact. This is just me as a fan looking at it and evaluating it. I think it's becoming clear he's not part of the DCU. So I think they will either not have a Batman or it will be recast. That's what I think at this point. Again, don't take that as a fact. That's just me speculating. They very well could. 50 Shades also writes, "Funny story, after I sent you that tip about the 666, I went to the post office, took a number, and waited for the number to be called. To my surprise, the first number that was called was 666 to counter 6. That's what is happening in the world. That's some spooky stuff. I would go and buy a lottery ticket, though. You're seeing some consistencies and pick every 6 on that thing that you possibly can."
Yep.
Matthew Phillips writes, "It was my birthday yesterday." Oh, happy birthday, my friend. And I had a funny idea. If John, Rob, Aaron, and Chris were Sex and the City ladies, who would be who? Have a good day.
I'm Samantha.
I have no idea. I don't know. I did
not anymore as a married lady, but I would. Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen the 2 Sex and the City movies. That's my only experience with them. To my shock and surprise,
you're Charlotte.
I like the first movie. I've never seen it.
No, he's obviously Carrie.
Is he Carrie?
Of course he's Carrie.
He doesn't even drink.
Well, but that doesn't matter. Carrie's the narrator.
I also don't have breasts.
Well, it's not about that. Carrie's the narrator. Carrie, she's the one that
I so don't want to be Miranda.
Sorry, Rob, you're Miranda.
I love redheads, but I don't want to be Miranda.
Rob's totally Miranda.
I'm so not Miranda.
Miranda's really smart. She's got a great business mind. She probably has a lot of pop toys.
That sounds a lot like
By the way, I give it up for Miranda because as a young actress, she appeared in Little Darlings with Tatum O'Neal and
Cynthia Nixon, by the way, the actress that we're talking about.
Yes, I love Cynthia Nixon as the actress.
I never saw the show. I saw the two movies. The first one I actually surprisingly like. The second one is absolute rubbish. But I have no idea who any of the characters are.
Well, it was a cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah,
it really was.
It really, because it was also...
Was it HBO?
It was HBO.
It was HBO,
and it came on Sunday nights right after 6 Feet Under, because we used to have Sex in the City Sundays.
The show's good, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? I do appreciate the way Miranda dressed, though.
Oh, God.
Come on.
Those sweatpants.
No, the suits. I mean, she was a power lawyer.
But
I liked her suits. I like her Manolos. You know, come on, what's up?
Fun fact, I got my second SAG accreditation. What do you call it? You need to get vouchers.
Vouchers.
In order to be able to be in the union, you had to have 3 SAG vouchers doing background work. And I was a stand-in on one of the episodes of Sex and the City, and so that's how I got my second SAG voucher way back in the day. I was out here visiting Los Angeles, crossing my fingers, hoping to get enough SAG vouchers. And I said, I'm not leaving LA until I have my 3 vouchers. And so I flew back to Texas, graduated from college, and my college, from college graduation, my parents asked me what I wanted. And I said, I want you to pay my SAG initiation fee.
And here we are today.
So thanks, Sex in the City.
All right, next up, and I still don't know which one I would be.
You're Carrie.
I had a piece of shit day today, but seeing Onward made it all go away. The magic of the movies is real. It's true. And listen, again, Onward to me is...
Oh, wait, he had another one. 50 Shades
of Grey. Right. Okay, I'll get down there in a second. To me, Onward is not one of the best Pixar movies, but that's still a high bar. Onward's really enjoyable. It's really enjoyable. And Anne was just ugly crying throughout a lot of it. She was just ugly crying through a lot of it. It's a really good, sweet movie. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Video writes earlier, I tried to balance things out by going to see Onward. I asked to be seated in row 7, chair 7, and hope the movie was playing in hall 7. Sadly, it wasn't. It was in hall 3, but hey, at least the movie was awesome. 50 Shades also then writes, just saw your video. Hope you had fun, and more importantly, hope you got on that damn ride. I did. So I put up a video yesterday explaining there wasn't going to be a show, and I did get on the ride, and it was amazing, and I talked about that earlier in the episode. So guys, if you get a chance to go do it, you should absolutely go do it. KW Garrett's girlfriend sends in a $50 tip. Thank you so much, KW girlfriend. If there's a question, not only will we answer it now, we will also make its own standalone video, which will be put up on the channel in the next week or two. So keep your eyes open for it. So thank you for that. KW Garrett 83 is my boyfriend. I'd like to dedicate a video to him for his birthday on April 14th. Possible topics. What do you think is the funniest moment in Airplane? His refusal to watch Harry Potter because it's for kids. More laundry talk, or your own idea. Thanks. Of course, laundry is always a big topic around here, and how I do or not do it. And the fact that now when I do it, I just leave it in the dryer and pull out clothes as I need them. Which upsets people out. Now, I cannot promise KW Garrett's girlfriend that this video... So I'll pick one of those things and go a little bit more in depth in its own standalone video. I can't promise it'll come out on that day, but do keep your eyes open for it. We'll put that one up and I'll address it. I'm thinking, I'm tempted to do the Airplane one, but I think maybe I'll address the Harry Potter thing as it being for kids. And maybe I'll go on that one. I'll figure it out and we'll put that up. But that's really nice of you to send in a video request for him. All right. So again, keep your eyes open for it. Star Wars Rocks writes, hi, John. I know they have already happened, but in preparation for next year's Oscars, what time does the show usually start, as I actually live in Europe, so it's already early evening for me at the time sending this in?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah,
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you'll just...
And the red carpet starts at 3.
Right. Pacific. Well, again, that's Pacific. So look up Pacific Standard Time and how that relates to your area. But yeah, I think they need to make it earlier, to be honest. East Coast, the movie's ending like after 11 o'clock, sometimes 11:30 on a work night for a lot of people. I get it. You don't want to start it too early in LA, but why not?
Start it at 3.
So, start at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
6, and that way you can watch it 6 to 9 in East Coast.
Yep. I think that's a good idea. I think that's totally what they should do. All right. Star Wars Rocks updates. It says Europe. I understood. Didn't you say that? I thought, Europe. I get it. Yeah, you got it. Don't worry about it. You didn't have to clarify that. Not Kevin Feige writes, what do you think about Rey's father being just a okay. Let me get through this. So what do you think about Rey's father being just a clone of Palpatine himself? Does that technically mean that Palpatine is Rey's father and not grandfather after all? Okay, look. I know I had a lot of people, because I'm a fan, I'm not passionate, and I care, Rob. Rob, I care.
You know what, John? I'm going to let you take this one.
All right, I care. So I got really upset about the whole, anyway. So I had a bunch of people yesterday writing to me and tweeting to me and all that kind of stuff. John, whoa, we want to hear you go off about this. Look, here's what I'm going to say. I am not, it's dumb. It's dumb. What they're doing in the novel is dumb. Okay, fine. I didn't like The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, fine. What I do not want to be, and what I will not allow myself to be, because sometimes I catch myself doing it, and I don't want to be this, so I'm just going to catch myself now and say what I do not want to be is one of those guys that spends 6 months bitching and whining and complaining about a movie they didn't like. And they just go on and on and on about it forever and put out 18 videos about something they don't like and cry and bitch and moan. Listen, I cry and bitch and moan and complain about enough. Because everybody knows I certainly have my moments where I cry and bitch and moan. I certainly do. But what I don't want to do is be the guy that harps on a movie he doesn't like continuously, just on and on and on and on and on. No, look. I don't like the prequels. So when somebody asks about the prequels, I will say, yeah, no, I don't like the prequels. I didn't like them. I don't think they're very good. But I'm not going to make a video harping on it and every day talk about the 18 different reasons why the prequel sucks and blah, blah, blah. I'm just not going to do that. And so, yes, I am tempted to go off on this whole thing about it's a clone, so which really means Palpatine is really her father and all that kind of nonsense. I could, but I just don't want to do it. I've already established I don't like Rise of Skywalker. I don't like the way, I've already well established, I don't like the way they have no consistency between the various stages of the way they do their stories, between the novels, comics, movies, and things like that. I've established that, and it is tempting, and I know hate videos get a lot of clicks. I know hate videos get a lot of clicks. I do, but I just don't want to be one of those guys that just goes on and on and on and on and on and on for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and 3 years from now still whining, complaining about the Rise of Skywalker novelization. I'm tempted, and I'll probably slip, but I just don't want to be that. And because, Rob, I've said a lot on this channel. I want my channel to be a channel that, yes, we're going to have things we will complain about sometimes. There's going to be things that we don't like, but I want my channel to be a channel about the things we love. I want my channel to be about the things we love.
I thought that.
I don't want to be identified by what I hate. I want to be identified by what I love. So I understand you asking the question. I think it's dumb. Not the question, but the answer to your question is I think it's dumb, but I just don't want to go off on it again. I just don't want to. I don't know, Rob. You got any thoughts on that?
Well, I used to think I would only do shows about what I love, and then they put out Star Trek Discovery and then Star Trek Picard, and I don't know what to do. But no, I think it does get tiresome after a while. Even I'm tired of myself actually talking about Star Trek. But yeah, why? Like, we get it. If something isn't good, move on. There's so many good things that are good, and this is just. I don't understand any of this. I mean, I don't want to read this novelization. I liked reading novelizations at one time in my life, but this novelization is full of ridiculousness, and I don't want to talk about it ever again.
All right. We move on here next. BC33 writes, glad you finally made on Rise of Resistance. Me too. It was exceptional. I got to go last Saturday, but let me tell you, while it was so cool, it is not made for tall people. Really, I'm 6'5", and I was so damn cramped in that thing. Still really awesome though, especially those AT-ATs. Now,
How tall are you, John?
I'm 6. But
okay.
I mean,
and you were comfortable in it?
I was totally comfortable. Now listen, there's 5 inches of difference between 6'5" and 6. Mm-hmm. But I saw some tall guys there. I'm trying to think of what it is. Oh, you know what? I think I know the one part. Okay, if I'm thinking of the right part, BC, and I don't want to give too many things away. You're talking about that thing right near the beginning? Yeah, maybe that was a little thing. But once you get into the main part of it, I don't see how height was an issue. I don't know. Again, I can't really address it too much without risking getting into giving away details for people who may not want the details of the ride yet. But But I can't think of why it would be, because I went with my buddy too, who is 1 or 2 inches taller than me. He didn't seem to have an issue. So I'm not exactly sure what it is we're talking about. But hey, listen, if you had a negative experience, I am really sorry to hear about that. That does suck when there's a physical limitation or a physical thing gets in your way of enjoying it. That sucks. And I'm sorry you had that experience. But yeah, overall, I personally thought the ride was great. Okay, Tristan Thorpe writes, I immediately thought if Dean Winchester made a Batmobile, this would be it. That's true when I first saw the reveal of the new Batmobile. Just me? No, it was, listen, I'll say this about the new Batmobile. Not what I was expecting. Rob, I'm sure you saw the pictures of it.
Oh, yeah.
Not what I was expecting, but the more I looked at it, because I remember it just dropped during the end of one of my shows a couple of days ago. And I looked at them on the show and I said, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure what I think. The more I've looked at it, the more I'm kind of now thinking it's got a classic look to it. It's kind of got a classic. But I like your analogy, the whole idea, this looks like a Batmobile that Dean Winchester from Supernatural would make. It totally does. That's completely on the money. So I think it's growing on me. Rob, what did you think about that Batmobile picture that dropped?
Obviously, we're hearing that this is the beginning of Batman's career. I mean, I
think year 2 or something like that.
Yeah, we saw the Nolan version, which they kind of did the same thing. But I like the fact that they're taking a totally different tact. We know that this is a new iteration of Batman, and they're reinventing the character. I like it. I mean, I wait. You know, I don't like to say we've seen a few photos. But let's see it all work on screen first before we judge it. I don't like to judge any movie until I've seen the movie. Right. But it looks to me, I was like, there's things that look like that in the comics, especially in the 70s. So,
okay, Jojo Giraffe writes, with No Time to Die pushed to November, do you think we can be less concerned about Hans Zimmer rushing the score, or do you think his score may be pretty final at this point since it was due to release soon? I have a feeling the score was done. Now, this might give them an opportunity. If there were some things he was not quite happy with, but hey, I got to get it done, so it's done. It might give them the opportunity for him to go, hey, can we revisit some of this? Can I get back? It might give him a chance to do that, but at the same time, Zimmer's schedule is packed. So he just may be moved on. It could offer the opportunity, though. Aaron, you're in charge of the new James Bond movie. You're now opening up in November instead. Mm-hmm. Do you go, no, we made our movie, it's packaged, it's sitting on the shelf, and it's ready to go, we're leaving it? Or do you go, hey, we got a few months, let's get in there and tinker a little bit? What do you do?
That's the problem with having extensions, is that you can never stop tinkering. I mean, you guys have both made movies. You know exactly how it is. You fill the time with as much as you possibly can, but the more time that you have to fill, the more you're going to fill. There's a reason why they set these release dates so far in advance, and it's obviously we've talked about other extenuating circumstances, but yeah, there is a danger in too much tinker. You know, you don't want to tinker too much, because then all of a sudden it just becomes an obsessive thing. And I like the fact that you brought up that Hans Zimmer has a busy schedule, so he's not necessarily going to be able to spend the next 6 months working on things. He's also such a pro. He's been doing this for so long that even him rushed is better than 98% of what anyone else could do, I do believe. So, at a certain point, you just got to put the baby to bed.
Rob, what do you do?
Well, look, if the movie was done, and it probably was done, opening up a movie and starting to do more work on it is costly. It's expensive. It really depends. Do they think they can make the movie substantially better? I mean, there's been some weird rumors surrounding No Time to Die that a test screening didn't go well, even though I thought they would have already had one. And if there's an opportunity, I mean, they have 7 months. It's a $250 million investment. At least that's how much they're saying the movie cost. If they have that opportunity, and there's always things you want to change that they can make better, I'd say, well, do you think that making the movie better would add to the box office? Would it make more people go? I think it's a cost-benefit analysis, but I think for the most part, if there's something you could change, you've got the time. Why not use it?
All right, next one up comes to us from Nathaniel Molnar, who writes, hey, John, I've been a fan watching every day since the AMC days. Thank you so much for that, Nathaniel. Wednesday was a really hard day for me because I had to say goodbye to my puppy, who's been a part of my family for almost 12 years. I'm looking forward to the distraction that your show brings. Well, first of all, I'm so sorry, because as somebody who's been a dog owner my whole life, And it's funny because James Gunn just himself, we talked about on the show, he talked very publicly about he lost his dog of 17 years that he said so beautifully. I don't know if you heard this. Guys, he said he wrote a note to his dog who just passed away a few days ago, and he said the clip clap of your nails against the floor walking behind me was the soundtrack of my life, which I thought was awesome. And I've got dogs, and that's a terrible thing. And of course, we got Joey Bishop here.
Yeah.
Oh gosh! If you showed up one day and said Joey Bishop wasn't with us anymore, I would literally cry.
You know what? My first day on Dynasty, I had just gone down to Atlanta, and one of the actors was going to have to leave early because his fiance called him from LA and said that they were going to have to put their dog down. And I didn't know him, but I just knocked on his door, and I had Joey, and I said, "Hey, I heard what you're going through," and I said, if you want, you can hold Joey. She's a stuffed animal with a heartbeat. And he immediately took her in his arms, and for like an hour while he was waiting to go on set, he just held her. And I'm so sorry. Anytime we lose a family member like that, it's such a terrible thing.
And they're family members, especially the ones who've been with us like 5 years, 10 years.
And so vulnerable as well.
So our deepest sympathies to you, Nathaniel, and that's just horrible. But man, you got to have that dog for 12 years, which is
what
great.
A blessing.
Ryan Lohner writes, I'm really looking forward to this Blythe Spirit movie, as I had the tremendous privilege of seeing it on stage with Rupert Everett and Angela Lansbury, one of the best great theater experiences of my life, and that includes Hamilton. I have no idea what we're talking about.
It's a trailer. It's like a British. It looks like a comedy farce. I think if that's what I'm thinking of, with a great cast. And I didn't know of this play. And the movie looks terrific. And I just watched that trailer and I was completely unfamiliar with it. And then I was like, what is this? And it's based on a play, so
I can't wait.
Do you know who the
playwright is?
I don't.
Huh.
And the play is called Blythe Spirit?
I think yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Angela Lansbury.
The trailer just dropped. And I think Judi Dench is in it.
Angela
really?
Lansbury and Judi Dench?
No, Angela Lansbury
I think was the stage show.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well. Okay, guys, listen. That will do it for all the time that we have here with the two wonderful Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett and Aaron Cummings, and of course Joey Bishop here. They got things they've got to do, so we're going to let them run. So for now, Aaron, where can people find you and your adventures online?
Oh, you can find me at Aaron L. Cummings. You can find Joey at Rat Pack Cats. That's on Instagram. And also, if you're going to be in the Los Angeles area around April 30th, I will be doing a live drunken reading of A League of Their Own with the Scripts Gone Wild crew. So come check us out.
And of course, that's going to be, I looked over the cast list of that. That's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. And of course, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or find me on YouTube on my channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations.
All right, guys, thank you both so much for being here today. It's always a better day when you guys are here, and we will see you both again next week. But for now, guys, we still have about 20 minutes left, so let's keep on going through your live questions that you guys have been sending in. And we're going to get things picked up here with Pimp My DeLorean, who writes, when I get a ticket using an unlimited plan, I assume that still counts towards the movie's box office. Does the theater just reimburse the studio for the 1/3 of the ticket price? Here's how this works, basically. And it might be a little different from theater chain to theater chain and movie plan to movie plan, but here's the basics of how it works. When I use my A-list, what AMC does, I believe they count that in their accounting and their booking, they just count that as a $9 movie ticket purchase. I believe it's $9. They count it as a $9 movie ticket purchase. And so as they're doing their bookkeeping and calculating out what they have to remit back to the system, they base that on a $9 movie ticket. So that's basically how they do the calculations. Again, it might be a little different from movie plan to movie plan, but my guess here is that's basically how it works for all of them all the way through. All right, Canada Rocks writes, one of the best elements of the Last of Us game is the fantastic score by Gustavo Santaolalla, I don't know how to pronounce that, who has 2 Oscars, one for Babel and one for Brokeback Mountain. I really hope HBO gets him to score their series. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, if it works so well in the game, that's an element you go, now, they don't have to. They can find another composer that's very good and make sure that he takes his influence for the show off of what was done in those games, and it could work out even better than the original. But all other things being equal, if you've got the opportunity just to go back to the guy who did the music for it in the first place, why not? Why not indeed? All right, K Major writes, Hey, John, I agree all the pirate movies... Oh, sorry. I agree. All the Pirates of the Caribbean movies were hot trash. I think the first one is great, though. I think the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie is great. But I did enjoy the second one, Dead Man's Chest, with the seamen, pirates, and introduction of Squid Face. Man, that dude was angry all the time. What didn't work for you in that one? It's what didn't work for me in all the rest of them. It's like there was something about the first one that was truly a big adventure movie. I thought the Captain Jack Sparrow character was the best that he was in the entire franchise in that first one. It's in the second one that you start to see the transformation. And then they just started doing wild things without real narrative purpose. So I don't want to go into a total deconstruction of the movie right now, but it's just there are a lot of things that worked in the first one that didn't work in the second one for me. And I actually thought the best one was the last one they did. Other than the first one. That's not saying much because I thought all the rest were terrible, but that's just me. That's just my opinion how I saw it. All right. John Stole My Wife writes, what the hell, John? My wife knows I listen to you all the time, but she's never seen you not behind a desk and mic until your Instagram post yesterday. She was shocked and was like, that's John. He looks like Snack. What does snack mean? Is that a good or a bad thing? First, ouch, honey. Second, he's married. I'm not quite sure which Instagram picture we're talking about, and I don't know what snack means. Does that mean I look like a morsel, or that I am a small, satisfactory afternoon delight, or that I am totally not sustainable and not nutritious? I don't know what it means, but my apologies, sir. My apologies. But what is it Justin Timberlake says in Bringing Sexy Back? What's the line in the song? If that's your girl, you better watch your back because she's burning up for me, and that's a fact. Why do I know a Justin Timberlake line? Because my wife was just listening to that song yesterday. I swear, that's why. Anyway, Brad Cart... I have no idea what I'm talking about. Brad Krager writes, hey there, John. Do you think the productions of Venom 2, Spidey 3, or Morbius could be affected by the delays due to the coronavirus outbreak? Morbius and Venom 2 are months out. Sony has big markets, filmmakers from China. Thanks. I don't think so. I think Morbius is done shooting. So that's done. And I believe, they're already well into production on Venom 2. So unless they were planning shoots in, like, say, Italy or Iran or China, I don't think it'll probably be affected too much. Now, look, we're still at the beginning stage of a lot of things. We don't know how things are going to evolve over the next couple of months. Right now, though, Brad, my guess is we probably won't see it affect that as far as their production goes. It probably won't be affected, but you never know. You never know. We're just at the beginning stage of all this, so we'll see how it unfolds. K Major writes, when growing up, I was unaware of these series' previous films, but these were my introduction. Weekend at Bernie's 2, Weekend at Bernie's 2, which is terrible. Ghostbusters 2, which I actually don't like. Addams Family 2, Rocky 3, which is awesome. Terminator 2, which is the best of the franchise. Return of the Jedi, which is also the best of the franchise. Temple of Doom. I love these films. Consider them my core films. So these are movies you saw that were actually sequels before you had seen the originals. That's interesting. That's too bad about Weekend at Bernie's 2 and Ghostbusters. That's unfortunate that those were your introductions, to be honest with you. I listen, I love Ghostbusters as much as anybody, but the sequel was just not good. And I got some of my friends who love that movie, like absolutely love it. That's why all films are subjective. But for me, it just never worked. But that's kind of interesting about that. Okay. Let's see here. K Major also writes, but when I got older, I ran into their much better half, Ghostbusters 1, Weekends 1, which makes 2 look like trash. It really does. Adams 1, same as Weekend. Rocky 1 and 2, Empire Strikes Back, best in the series. Actually, Return of the Jedi is the best in the series. Raiders, Terminator 2. Actually, my favorite in the Raiders is still the third one, which, why am I freezing on there? It's Raiders, Temple of Doom, why am I freezing on the name of the third one? But whatever. It's actually the third one. When they get the chalice, when they get the Holy Grail, the quest for their Holy Grail. That one for me is still the best. Terminator 2, yeah, great. Has this happened to you before? I don't know. Last Crusade, by the way. Last Crusade is the third Raiders film. I don't know that I started a franchise with a sequel. I don't know that I have. I must have at some point, but if I did, I can't remember it off the top of my head. That's a really interesting question, though, K Major. An anonymous viewer writes, hey, John, did you see CM Punk Movie Girl on the third floor? Did you see CM Punk movie Girl? Oh, the CM Punk movie Girl on the Third Floor. It was a good horror indie flick, and his acting was better than I thought it would be. No, I've never even heard of it, to be honest. I've never even heard of it. So I like CM Punk. I actually got to meet CM Punk at Comic-Con once. We were having breakfast, and I got to talk to him, and he was super nice, super nice. And then I bumped into him again at a film event. But super nice guy. But no, I've never even heard of the movie, to be honest with you. All right. Aaron Moen writes, Hugh Jackman, Gerard Butler, Carl Urban, and Josh Brolin are the only actors I'm accepting to play Joel. Oh, yeah, get that out of your head right now. Caitlin Dever is my perfect Ellie. Again, this whole thing, we as fans do this. I do it too. We all do it. I'm guilty of this as well. Where only these actors can play this role. Oh, come on. You never would have picked Hugh Jackman. You never would have picked the song and dance Broadway boy, Hugh Jackman, to play Wolverine. And now look at him. You never would have picked Heath Ledger to play Joker. And now look at what we've got. You never would have picked, most people would not have picked Robert Downey Jr. to play Iron Man. His name was done. He was done in Hollywood. You wouldn't have picked him. And look where we're at. So this whole thing about only these, I will not accept anybody else other than these actors because these are the ones I already know. Nah. Just get that out of your head. You know, just let the screenwriters and the director who know what they're going to do in the movie, let them be the deciders of what actor will best fulfill their vision of the character and then go from there. Because again, we never would have gotten the most iconic, some of the most iconic roles ever. We never would have picked them. So let's just take a step back from this. Only this actor or this actor can play this role. Let's just take a step back from that and let's see what they do. By the way, it might be one of those guys. You never know. Import Taste Humor writes, Hi, Johnny Karate. What was your fighting record? I was never a professional fighter. I never had any professional fights, so there's that. David writes, I understand and respect your stance on X actor and Y role. However, when I saw The Last of Us could be on HBO, my thoughts went instantly to Hugh Jackman and Daphne Keane. Again, yeah, everybody says that. I mean, everybody says that. It's a little bit way too on the nose and a little bit too much of a novelty shtick. I'll just get the same two who did Wolverine and did Logan together. So, no, don't get me wrong. If they announce those tomorrow, hey, I'm down. But again, this whole thing is that it's got to be this one specific actor and it's got to be this one. Again, if that was the case, we never would have had Michael Keaton Batman. We never would have had Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in the first place. We never would have had any of that stuff. So I would just take a step back. But you're not alone in that, David. There are tons of people who instantly went to Daphne Keane, Hugh Jackman. The Logan pair, bring them right into Last of Us. There's a lot of people that felt that way, so you're in good company. All right. Mandalorian of Gondor writes, Hey, John, with so many events being canceled or delayed due to the outbreak, what is the likelihood that San Diego Comic-Con gets canceled or at the least studios opting out of this year's show? DC just opted out of Seattle and it has me worried. I honestly don't think it's going to affect Comic-Con. I honestly don't. Now, again, I have no insider information. We're at the beginning stage. We don't know how this is going to unfold. Like, we don't know if we're going to see the growth rate now start to decline. We don't know if we're going to see the growth rate explode. We just don't know. I do know this. There's an event coming up that you guys know is my favorite event of the year called CinemaCon. And it's coming up in just a couple of weeks. And it is moving forward. CinemaCon is moving forward. And so I believe San Diego Comic-Con will move forward. I don't know that for sure. And if the news changes over the next few weeks, then maybe my prediction will change as well. For now, I believe that it's things like CinemaCon and stuff like that are going to move forward. I think now it's looking like South by Southwest is probably going to be canceled. But I think Comic-Con, by the time we get to July, I think this will become more normative, and I think it'll probably move forward. So my guess right now is that it's not going to affect Comic-Con. That's my guess. All right, but who knows? All right, let's see here. Blake Studwell writes, do you think that the real reason No Time to Die was delayed was because its plot involves elements involving a worldwide spread virus? Mulan and Black Widow would also have huge international box office numbers. No, I don't believe that at all. See, I think one of the big things... By the way, I don't think those numbers, like Marvel can do very well in China. I don't think Black Widow is going to do great in China, to be honest with you. one of the big things was brought up in an open letter to the producers the other day, which was a really good fact, which was there was a certain number of countries that are most being affected by the events right now. And the letter pointed out that the last Bond movie, Spectre, 38% of their overall box office was represented in just those countries. I think that alone, because of the appeal of Bond in certain countries, was, and I said when that came out, before they announced they delayed it, I said, this is a good business reason to delay this movie. Remember? We talked about it on the show, and this was before they announced that they delayed the release. I said, this argument that's being made about this country, this country, this country, this country, and this country, which are most being affected, represents 38% of the last Bond's box office. This is a reason to delay the movie. And I said, yep, I agree. It doesn't automatically mean you have to delay it, but I completely agree that that is a good reason to do that. And that's a good reason to delay it. So I do believe, Blake, to be honest with you, that is the reason. It's all a financial reason. It's all on the business. And I do believe that's the main reason they moved it. All right. Mr. TJ Lynn writes, since 1981, there's been only one. Oh, this is true. I remember talking about this with somebody. Since 1981, there's only one film winning Best Picture without at least getting a film editing nomination, Birdman in 2014. Both Roma and 1917 didn't get an editing nomination. People who know this stat probably weren't surprised when they lost Best Picture. It's true. It's true. It also goes along with the notion of, a movie that is not also nominated for Best Director. Argo did it, but I think it wasn't. I think you got to go back as far as Driving Miss Daisy to the last time that happened. So the editing wasn't really interesting. By the way, a lot of people were very surprised, TJ. A lot of people were surprised that 1917 didn't get an editing nomination. I mean, it got like 10, so you'd think editing would have been one of them, and it's a very well-edited movie. I was a little bit surprised it didn't get an editing nomination as well, just so you know, but that's a good fact to bring up, dude. All right, TJ also writes, have you ever watched the 2000 film Frequency? Yeah, and they made a television show out of it, too. Not a very long-lived one, but they made a television series out of it, too, with Dennis Quaid. Have you ever watched the 2000 film Frequency with Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel? It's a time-traveling sci-fi movie about a son rescuing his father using time travel radio communication. I thought it was touching. It was a very good little movie, actually. Didn't do great. It didn't do great. And Quaid was wonderful. Dennis Quaid is usually pretty money. Dennis Quaid is always money. Let's put it that way. But then again, like I said, it made such an impact. They actually translated that into a little TV show. A TV show I never watched myself, to be honest with you. I didn't really see how that premise worked as a TV show personally, so I never checked it out. So I don't know if it was good or bad. I have no idea. But yeah, it is a nice little one. I'm glad you brought that up, TJ. Tristan Larson writes, Castlevania is the greatest of all time video game adaptation. I don't know about that. I mean, I really did if you go back, I did a review of Castlevania Season 1, and I really quite liked it. I quite liked it, but it is not for everybody, right? That Castlevania show on Netflix was definitely not for everybody. And I think the first season was only 4 episodes. I think season 1 was 4 episodes, and I got a big kick out of it. I gave it a big thumbs up. I liked it very much, but it is not for everybody. I mean, I know a number of people who tried watching that based on my recommendation and they just hated it. And I think you got to be into a certain style. I think you have to be into a certain style. And so I would suggest that when your possible audience is so narrowed that only certain people would enjoy it, I think that kind of disqualifies you from the conversation of being a goat of something. But that's just kind of my approach to it. But I like it too. Jason writes, thanks so much for bringing up Unforgiven the other day. I haven't watched it in years, but rewatched it last night. Forgot how much I love that movie. It's a hell of a thing, killing a man. You take away everything he's got and everything he's ever going to have. Oh, God. Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. But Unforgiven, and I think there is, and Rob brought up a big list of other movies too, and he's totally right too. But I believe, and there are a lot of people who make this argument, I believe there is a strong argument that Unforgiven may be the greatest Western ever made. It just might be the best Western ever made. I just love that movie. And that's just one of the great lines in it. But this man who he was a changed man due to a promise to his wife who is now gone. And where does that leave him? Oh my God. And the ending is so good. Might be the greatest thing. You take away everything he's got and everything he's ever going to have. Oh, strong line, Jason. Strong line. Nathan Taylor writes, is there a movie that you like the score soundtrack, but don't like the movie itself? Mine is the 1989 or 1998 Godzilla and Matrix Revolutions. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of movies. Score is different from soundtrack. Soundtrack is, pick some songs and throw them in the movie. Score is you actually get in a composer who actually creates the music to fit with the movie. With score, there are many movies where the director picks some great songs to put in the movie, but it doesn't help the movie. Scores that I didn't like the score, that I love the score but didn't like the movie. That's a good question. I gotta believe there are, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. But that's a really good question, Nathan. Hey, what about you guys? Do you guys have some movies that you love the score, but you're not a big fan of the movie? Oh, you know what? Yeah, this is an obvious one. Phantom Menace. Now, it's not quite as good of a score as the original trilogy, but again, it was John Williams. It was really good music in The Phantom Menace. And particularly, we got one of the greatest pieces of Star Wars music ever in The Duel of the Fates. Out of The Phantom Menace. So there's one that I really did like the soundtrack, or the score, I should say, but I didn't like the movie. So that's one I can think of, off the top of my head. All right. Dumbledore Calrissian writes, finally nearing the end of Star Wars Rebels. Yesterday I watched the episode where a certain character dies a heroic death. Man, it really got me. Listen, I'm somebody, I don't like Clone Wars. I don't hate Clone Wars, but I'm not a fan of Clone Wars. So I was very suspicious and skeptical that I would like Rebels. After all, made by the same people and everything. But I like Rebels. I do. I mean, it's a little hit and miss sometimes. But overall, I found Rebels to be pretty rich. And I like the characters very, very much. And it was new characters in a time period that we really hadn't been addressed before. And again, some seasons are stronger than others. Some episodes are stronger than others. It's a little bit hit and miss sometimes. But overall, I really did quite enjoy that show. So, and I know the scene you're talking about too. And I agree. It was a really, really well done scene. All right. Carlos Nogueras writes, imagine a Green Lantern film grounded in military, where half the movie is in basic training like Full Metal Jacket, but PG-13. There's so many military movies they could be inspired by and still be super. I see. Here's the thing, Carlos. While I think that is a really interesting approach to take, I don't think the general fan base would embrace it. I don't think the fan base would embrace it. I think you would probably get a very loud complaint of, it's a Green Lantern movie and there's hardly any Green Lantern in it. I really do think you would get a lot of that. So while I still think you could make a pretty compelling story that way, I think it would piss a lot of people off. And so if I was a studio head, that would be my concern. I would say, let's play up the military aspect a bit, but you can't do that and then go through the first half of the entire movie and Green Lantern doesn't show up. Or he doesn't get the ring and become the Lantern, you know? I think it would be very problematic for a lot of audiences. Fairly or unfairly, I think it would probably be really problematic for some people. Walks with Joe writes, I recently watched Nacho Libre. Not only is it hilariously questionable or quotable, the cinematography is beautiful and has one hell of an OST. Have you seen it? Oh, yeah. I got to admit, I'm not a fan of Nacho Libre. And I was tremendously excited for that movie. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's garbage. Don't get me wrong. But I was very, very excited, especially as somebody who spent a lot of time watching wrestling when I was younger and all that kind of stuff. And I still, Ann and I are even thinking about going to WrestleMania this year. But as a fan of Jack Black and as a fan of wrestling, I was actually very excited for Nacho Libre. I got to admit, it didn't quite work for me, but I'm glad it worked for you, man. I'm glad it worked for you. All right. Eric Struy writes, did you hear that Melissa Benoist is pregnant? Yes. Do you think they'll write her pregnancy into next season? No, probably not. They'll figure out a way to shoot around it. They'll either, they'll probably wait till she has the baby to shoot or something along those lines. They'll figure something out. Listen, a lot of actresses get pregnant. That's what people do. Guess what? People get married couples have families and people get pregnant, and actresses, they're able to figure out a way to work around it. So listen, and you got to know when you're doing a show, especially if you do a show over multiple years, at some point, there's a good chance, not that it's automatic, but there's a good chance at some point your lead actresses might decide to have a family and get pregnant. Great. So the TV and movie industry has dealt with this for so many decades, over a century, that I'm sure they have a plan in place for how to deal with that. So no, I don't think, although they may, but I don't think they'll incorporate the pregnancy into the season. I don't think they'll incorporate that. I think they'll just find a way to work around it. But you never know. You never know. It is a creative direction they could decide to go. Orange Hand writes, the prequels get a lot of talk for using so many green screen sets, but was there a viable alternative within the tech capabilities of the time? No. And by the way, I think the visual effects, I crap on the prequels a lot, but I think the visual effects in the prequels were so far ahead of their time. I think they were beautifully done, right? I think they were beautifully done. And so I am not one of the people who complains about green screen or visual effects in The Phantom Menace. I actually think they were fantastic. So that's just me. Michael Jones just sends in a $20 super chat to be supportive. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate that, man. Jesse writes, one of two. Honestly, the biggest thing that's moving my needle on this The Last of Us HBO show is Neil Druckmann's involvement. I feel as long as he's attached, this could have potential more than any other video game adaptation. I disagree. Anyway, we'll go on to part two. However, I'd be lying if I said that it'd get me more excited when I heard that the partner in the project was Craig Mazin. Hopefully together they can bring some of that Chernobyl quality mixed with The Last of Us. Yeah, see, that's the name to be excited about, because that's the guy who actually knows how to put together narrative stories for the screen. Right? I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited to hear that Druckmann is going to be involved. I am. That is something to be excited about. But I wouldn't be nearly as excited about this if it wasn't for the fact that they had the Chernobyl guy, the guy who knows and is experienced in actually working with actors, creating just a narrative story and translating that to the screen. He's the guy that's done that. He's the one who knows how to do that. So yeah, I'm big on the fact that they got Druckmann doing it. Absolutely. Very excited about that. But to me, the main event, the headline, the showstopper of this is you're getting the guy who did Chernobyl to do it. That's why he's going to be the showrunner on it. And that's why I'm exceptionally excited about this. I think they're going to do a great, but them two working together, I think it's going to be great. Michael Jones writes, hey, John, I'm a Resident Evil fan of the video games, but the movies suck. Rumor has it that they're rebooting it to make it more survival horror. What do you think? Just bring the fight. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Resident Evil movies. Not a fan. And I know there are friends of mine who loved it. The late, great John Schnepp, I know he and I used to debate them all the time because he really did like the Resident Evil movies. For the most part. But I have never liked the Resident Evil movies. And it's really a shame because they're the types of films that are really right up my alley. But I was never a big fan of them at all. But yeah, I mean, look, if they want to redo them, fabulous. If you want to redo them, that's great. And maybe you can make something really special out of them. Maybe you can do something really cool with them. But I mean, I don't know. Go ahead, take a shot. Why not reboot it? Give it a try. Maybe you can do it a lot better the second time around. Maybe with a different creative team, you can do something that does a really good job. And listen, even though I don't like the Resident Evil movies and you don't like them, they do have their fan base. And so you always got to keep that in consideration, that films are subjective, man. Just because I didn't like them doesn't mean there's not a lot of other people who did. And so we'll see, but why not take another shot at it? It's a recognizable IP. It's a long-standing IP. Why not take another shot at it? Indeed. So I'm good with it. Then let's see what they would do with it once and if it does happen. Jordan R. just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. Ben Rayner writes, hey, John and crew, do you think if The Office was on today, do you think John Krasinski would be asked to volunteer to direct an episode or two? I think he would. Also, Rob, congrats on your glorious victory last night. I'm not quite sure what that's about. However, if I'm not mistaken, hold a second. I thought John Krasinski, I thought he did direct one or two episodes of The Office. Let me look this up here. Because I thought he did. I could be totally wrong about that, though. Yeah, he did. John Krasinski did direct 3 episodes of The Office. In 2010, he directed the Sabre, but remember they called it Sabre episode. In 2011, he directed the Lotto episode. And in 2012, he directed the Boat episode. So, yeah. And given today that he is a hot name director now today, yeah, Yeah, they would probably get him to direct more today for sure. I don't see why you wouldn't. Okay, let's see. Darth Wayne writes, I usually don't care for fan castings, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't rooting for Hugh Jackman as Joel and McKenna Grace as Ellie for Last of Us. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong for anybody to have what they would consider to be an ideal casting for a certain character movie. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm just saying absolutely what these fans should not do is just get attached to it. Because again, we're thinking one vision. The directors and filmmakers may have another vision that could be 10 times better than ours. So you just don't get attached to that. You know, I just get worried when we see film fans going, I don't want to watch this movie unless you put this actor in the role. I mean, that's what we as film, I've been guilty of that. You've been guilty of that. That's just when we get into trouble. It's fine to have, sure, in your head, you got a fantasy casting. That's fine. That's harmless. But it just gets to the point that people get so attached to their fan casting or their prediction or their whatever, that if the filmmakers or the TV show runners don't do what they already decided in their head they want to have happen, then they get cranky about it, right? So that's just the one thing. We just can't get too attached. Just don't get attached to our fan casting. That's all. All right, guys, listen. From Christopher Onsworth's Imagination Studios, Brando the Mighty Great, and everybody else on up, do not worry. We are out of time right now, but your questions are going to get answered properly in a video. There's only a few left, so we're going to do an open mic tomorrow, and we're going to start off tomorrow's open mic with those leftover questions that you guys have. So don't worry, if you sent in those questions, they're going to get answered properly in a video tomorrow, so keep your guys' eyes open for that. And that will do it, guys, for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and making this show a part of your day. It's always great to get together with the film fans. Thanks to Aaron Cummings and Robert Meyer Burnett for being here, bringing their greatness to the show. Thank you to all of you for making this a part of your day, and a special thank you to all of you guys who sent in the questions, because number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported the channel while you were doing it, and all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you very much for that. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of the show. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, bye-bye.